People of the world, welcome back to Send It Rising. I'm Kellen Kautzman, your host. Today we're talking about Elon Musk buying Twitter and only Elon Musk buying Twitter. $44 billion is the price tag. The first article we're going to cover is from TheVerge.com. Quote, Twitter has accepted a buyout offer from Tesla and SpaceX billionaire Elon Musk, leading to a day of frenzied speculation over one question: how is Musk going to change Twitter? Now, as you are probably already aware, Donald Trump and Truth Social was going to be, theoretically, the free speech platform on the internet. It's not going well. Now, Musk coming in and buying Twitter does a couple of things. Number one, it provides an atmosphere for free speech advocates to get behind a social media platform because that's the general idea. And two, it just goes to show that if you have all of the money, you can change the political climate fairly easily. Money in politics, am I right? So Musk coming in is going to change the way Twitter operates. And as we saw during the Trump presidency, Twitter plays a huge role in how information is distributed, what that information means to people, how it gets there. I've covered on the show many times that Twitter has placed little warnings about certain information. They put misinformation markers on things. They have censored and banned a lot of people. On the other side of that fence, you could say Twitter has done a fantastic job of stopping misinformation. It depends how you want to view each individual item. Now, the article continues. Musk named his priorities in a press release, echoing earlier statements he's made about potential changes. Quote, free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. And so the general idea here is that he wants things to be more open, let people say what they want to say, and call it a day. Now, when it comes to monetization, I have been very skeptical of Twitter's ability to monetize. We recently saw huge drops from Netflix, which was monetizing quite well for quite a while. As a digital marketing agency owner, we always talk about Facebook ads. We always talk about Google ads. We talk about SEO, which is essentially working for Google, but we do not talk about Twitter ads. And all of these subscription services I've seen for Twitter are not that impressive to me. When the board of Twitter said to the community, hey, we are looking to potentially sell this thing, there weren't many bidders. In fact, according to some articles, Elon Musk was the only one. So the core points that we see from this Verge article are free speech, number one, which we've talked about. Open source algorithms is number two. Quote, one of Musk's areas of concern is recommendation algorithms that amplify or downrank tweets and accounts in potentially biased ways. There is a huge salary waiting for any engineer that can unengineer systemic bias, unengineer systemic racism, unengineer discrimination within these algorithms, because the code seems to bake in all of these biases because they exist in the way that people behave, and people behave in a biased way. Going back to the article, he's proposed publishing Twitter's algorithmic sorting systems on GitHub for people to publicly review and comment on, making something like the top tweets ranking system more theoretically legible. So if the algorithm, according to Musk and this article, is made, quote, open source, it would completely change the dynamic. So we'd be seeing more of a Wikipedia style. So when I first heard that Elon was potentially going to be a board member of Twitter, I thought to myself, whoop-de-doo, because I'm not a big believer in the influence of one board member in a large bureaucratic institution that holds a minor stake. I know how large corporations and bureaucracies tend to work. They are very slow. You don't get to do amazing things like making the algorithm open source like that if you own it, and we'll see if it's a private company after this, or if it remains public, or what the ramifications of this deal are. But something like making the algorithm open source would definitely change the outlook. Continuing on, he hasn't outlined specific plans to follow the requirement of an open source license. We shall see what happens here. Another item, spam and scam bots. According to the article, he's indicated that spam and scam bots and bot armies are Twitter's new public enemy number one. this has been a major issue for me since day one on Twitter, which is that the number of Fiverr accounts that are trying to get you 1 million followers, or the the follow unfollow bots. For those of you that are unfamiliar, you can set a bot to go and follow specific accounts. They could be accounts about corgis and how cute they are. They could be accounts about the Taliban. It's whatever you want. They follow those accounts and then wait for that person to follow back. If they don't follow back in a certain period of time, they are unfollowed. It's called following churn. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to scam and spam bots on the platform. He hasn't talked about how he's going to police it, but he's talking about purging fake accounts, banning certain features, and it really is a technological issue. Perhaps the current board and engineers at Twitter are a bit more skittish to bring down the axe when it comes to getting rid of accounts. Maybe he's not going to care as much. Maybe he'll be much more apologetic than asking for permission, which is to say, if your Twitter account gets deleted, he may, under his policy, say, well, is what it is, sort of thing. Whereas the current administration, you could say, the current corporate body, is less likely to do that in the revolution, in the attempt, you could say, to kill spam and finally authenticate all humans. This is absolutely fantastic and interesting information. Quote, the weirdest and arguably most disruptive part of Musk's Twitter pitch lies in the last 3 words, authenticating all humans. Because if we're talking about anti-spam, this would do the trick. Musk made a similar comment on Twitter before the purchase, phrasing it as authenticate all real humans, following a commitment to defeat bots. Now, it is a war against these bots, and there are countless people all over the world that are making a lot of money by selling likes, by selling follows, by selling retweets, because we fundamentally, as people, believe in social proof. When I put out this show, if you see 2 views in the bottom, you are way less likely to think that the content is relevant, good, quality, etc. It is very difficult to get traction, and so a lot of people are addicted, they are engaged, they are interested in the idea of buying those initial likes. If I can buy 5,000 likes, if I can buy 10,000 likes, I'm going to go ahead and do that to give me the social proof so that people are more interested in the content. Authenticating all humans would essentially destroy these entire networks and only leave real, actual human networks. Fascinating stuff. Moving on to our next article, time.com. The point of this one, Twitter employees have spent years trying to make the platform safer. Could Elon Musk undermine all of that? Quote, there's an old joke among Twitter employees that being on the platform is like playing a huge online multiplayer game where every day there's a different main character, meaning a person who's critiqued, harassed, or otherwise shoved into the spotlight. According to the joke, you have just one goal in the game of Twitter, never become the main character yourself. So if you are currently at Twitter and you are concerned about what he's going to do, you have legitimate evidence and legitimate concerns, because you really don't know. He's only given some broad kind of overarching ideas, and when it comes to any sort of negotiation, you don't know what's going to happen next. $44 billion bid from the world's richest man now makes Twitter under his control. Quote, in statement announcing that Twitter had agreed to let him purchase the social network, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX spoke in grandiose terms familiar to anyone who follows his pronouncements on colonizing Mars or building electric vehicles. Quote, free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. We talked about this in the previous article. So if I'm working at Twitter right now and I have very strong moral qualms about the way that the company is addressed, he's going to have some very interesting sort of coup-related issues to deal with, which is to say that when he steps in, he's going to have to win them over. They're going to quit. He's going to fire them. Something's going to happen, and it's going to be really interesting. Quote, members of marginalized communities who are disproportionately the victims of online threats and abuse are among those most protected by Twitter's current content moderation system. Activists from these communities share Twitter employees' concerns that these protections could be rolled back. Quote, if Elon Musk were to take over, the damage that would be done would spread from Twitter workers not being able to implement the things they need in order to keep the platform safe, from Jelani Drew Davy, a campaign manager at the digital civil rights group Kairos. This from time.com. All links to all articles that we cover in the show are right there in the description if you want to see where we are sourcing our information from. It's okay to panic if you're an employee at Twitter. Things are going to be very different shortly. Musk gets Twitter for $44 billion to cheers and fears of free speech plan. This one from Reuters. Same idea. Quote, under pressure, Twitter started negotiating with Musk to buy the company at his proposed $54.20 per share price. Back to the free speech quote. We know what's going on there. Quote, Twitter as a company has always been my sole issue and my biggest regret. It has been owned by Wall Street and the ad model. Taking it back from Wall Street is the correct first step. Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal, former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey weighed in on the deal late on Monday with a series of tweets. That came from Dorsey, So Twitter as a company has always been my sole issue and my biggest regret, according to former CEO Jack Dorsey. Twitter shares rose 5.7% on Monday to finish at 51.70. Oof. We are going to have a very interesting couple of weeks here. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the show for today. What do you think about Elon Musk? Do you think this was a smart move, silly move? Do you love him? Do you hate him? People have very strong opinions about him. I happen to think Elon Musk is a very interesting character, and Twitter has been a mainstay of the cultural phenomenon of the globe for the last 10, 15 years, and so perhaps even longer. And so if you are interested in sharing your thoughts, youtube.com/Send It Rising. If you want to see me covering these sorts of things in shorter form, tiktok.com/Send It Rising, where I barefoot ride a longboard. Love to see your comments. Reach out to us, info at senditrising.com. That's info at senditrising.com. I happen to own senditrising.com, which is an amazing digital marketing company, WordPress, SEO, pay-per-click, etc. Thanks for swinging by the show. We'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.